It's almost like I did it on purpose.
Almost. But you
Almost.
didn't.
Oh,
You're not smart enough for that.
super dumb.
Hello and welcome to the Drunkduck QUACKCAST, the podcast that we do for our site, which is up to number 552 at the moment. Wow, we're really clipping along here. Not long till 555, the magic number, which is
Right.
it's even better than 666 because that's going to take us forever to reach. So
That's a cliche.
wow, funny you should say that. So Tance has mentioned the titular line here. We are doing a thing about cliches that we like, or cliches and tropes that we actually like. This was an idea from Furwork Studio, I believe, who made a comment in the forums. Based on our podcast and Tance's news post about cliches and tropes that we hate. So we're going in the other way now, and we're going to talk about what we love. So before we get into that, we have to bring up the featured comic. QUACKCAST picked this feature, and it is Backwards. So take it away, Kwai, with Backwards.
Hello, this is QUACKCAST, and the feature I've selected for this week is Backwoods by Carol Clifton, and it is rated E for everyone. The Backwoods begins inside a storage unit of a beloved professor that has recently passed on. In the center stands a prominent sarcophagus of jackal-headed deity Anubis, with the caption, "There are stories." This is a thinking person's comic, where rat skeletons, chainsaw-wielding tree stump, legendary griffins, battle horsemen, and nightmares personified are all bottled up and saved among the comic pages. The comic's full-page black and white imagery mirrors its creator as something you might meet in a dream. Let your imagination venture into the zany and read Backwoods by Carol Clifton, rated E.
And that was Kwai talking about Backwards. Okay, so next up we have featured music. Gummalus has given us a really, really nice little theme to Amber Mage. So Gummalus, Amber Mage. It's warm waves of amber light synth, subtle tribal beat flowing under a beautiful orchestration of violins blending with sharp, bouncy electronica pulses, creating a tasty melange with a sweet, spicy cinnamon flavor. So take it away, Gumwallace, with Amber Mage. Gumwallers with the theme to Amber Mage, which is a comic by Wildcat Aaron. Lovely Thank you very much for creating that beautiful comic, Wildcat Aaron, and thank you, Gomos, for your theme. So, now we're chatting about cliches that we love to love, or hate to love, or, whatever. As long as we don't hate them, we love them. So,
Yes.
yeah.
We have a consenting relationship with them.
Yes.
Fully consenting. So, yeah, we had a good little talk about that in our Patreon video, which was really cool. And you get to see me in all different colors because I got this fancy new ring light and I was playing with my ring light. But I chatted about I started it off with talking about the isekai. So it basically is a Japanese word that just means, another world. So a protagonist from the real world, from our world, gets magically transported to another world. It's a really, really old genre, going back hundreds of years. And Pitt and Tance brought up Wizard of Oz and Alice in Wonderland as great exemplars of the genre. But in the modern day, it's transformed into this idea of being transported to massively multiplayer online role-playing games, or MMORPGs, because that's the magical world most people experience and, have sort of an idea of in their daily lives. And so it's become very popular in Japanese anime and manga to have a person transported into a game world. It started off, I think, with hack slash. Yeah, that's it. Slash whatever. These were like a game on I think PlayStation, and they did anime about them, and it was pretty pedestrian. But they did quite a few in that series, and the genre was nothing then. It was just in the background. But in recent years, it just exploded. I think Sword Art Online was one of the most popular versions. It was a very bad version of it. And it just exploded massively, and now there are millions of versions of it, and it has become a cliche. And because it is a cliche, there's a lot of terrible, terrible, horrible shows and anime and manga in this with this theme. So that's what happens with cliches. But there are still some good ones, and I still love it because there are still some brilliant versions of this, and I just love the idea of being transported into another world. It's such a cool thing. So yeah, that's the cliche I love to love. With the backstory.
And well, I mean, if you take something like video games, it almost if you take narratives about video games, it almost progresses naturally that way, that's the direction they would take eventually, because video games themselves, a lot of times, especially MMORPGs, are about immersing yourself in like another world and another character and becoming something else for a while. And so the next step is to take it literally. You're say you're in a virtual reality or something like that, and kind of conflating the two worlds. So
exactly,
that was just
That's exactly the thing. Yeah, people put on these headsets and stuff like that, and now virtual reality, as you're saying, this has become this evolution in video games. I've tried it; it's pretty damn cool.
Really?
Yeah, you interact. You put the headset on, and the computer tracks where you are because it's got like tracking, things in the corners of a room, and you hold these little joysticks that you interact with, things in the world. So you can pick stuff up. You can pick guns up and work them, or a knife or something like this, and the joysticks sort of track your hand movements and where your hands are, and it's amazing. It's like being inside the world. It's very scary when the zombie pops out and tries to attack you, and you have to physically beat it. It's amazing. So yeah, we like you're saying, we are kind of doing that, and it would be good to go even further and make a isekai game. That would be so awesome.
I was going to write a short story once I might do it at some point. I just want to talk about it because at how slow I am, somebody else is just going to do it if they haven't already, and I want to be able to say, "No, I had this idea first." So I was going to write a short story and creatively just call it isekai, I guess, where there was going to be this character, and he goes into one of those virtual reality worlds, but he's not aware that he's actually come out of it. So he is, and of course, that being one of my stories, it was going to be like he accidentally goes on a killing spree. So I'd be seeing people as like game demons or whatever the fuck, whatever genre it would have been, and it wasn't going to have any higher meaning like, oh, video games make people violent. It was just going to be schlock for schlock's sake, just stupid neon and fun.
Sounds like genius to me. Sounds really clever.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the guy just thinks he's still in the game. It's freaking awesome. Yeah, even even the genre of people being stuck in video games was like the first one that was really popular on that idea was Lawnmower Man, which is based on the Stephen King story, I think. I'm pretty sure. But
I've never seen it though, so
it's a terrible movie, but I imagine the book's good. Yeah, the movie's just really bad. It was the start of the whole virtual reality craze, which, there was a lot of stuff going on then. But there was a book I read years, even earlier than that. It was by Piers Anthony, the writer who's famous for Xanth, which is basically sort of an isekai thing. I mean, at least one of the books is the man from Mundania, a man from this world, goes to fantasy world. But he wrote one called Kilobyte, I think it was called. And that was where a man gets stuck in a massively multiplayer role-playing game before those even existed, which was pretty interesting. It was set in Libya during Libya? No, it was set in Lebanon during the 80s when the country was fought over by all these different fractions. There was these Israelis, the KGB, the CIA, and the Druze, and Christians, and Muslims, and all sorts of people all fighting over. And in the game, you picked a faction and you fought, and you kill people and stuff like that. And this man got stuck in the world, and he was like a physically disabled man, and in the world he got to move again. So it's all that idea, and like Avatar, I suppose even the Americans, what was his name? Not American, but that famous film has a man who can move again because he's in a virtual kind of world, but he's not in an artificial world. He's in a real world there. But anyway, blah 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 blah. It's a pretty cool kind of genre, and there's lots of different things that have been done with it. So yeah, and it's not new either, even though it's a cliche now. It's been around for a long time, and people have done every single version, so there's nothing new about it whatsoever.
Yeah, well, it's kind of the same thing with genre full of tropes that I tend to love, and that's the slasher genre. I can't say those two words together for some reason. Slasher genre. Okay.
It's a little bit challenging, yeah. I need some tongue and lip acrobatics. Slasher genre.
But I mean, that's a genre that's full of cliches, and it's built on a lot of cliches. And it began in a time when like serial killers and stuff were far more prolific in the US. That's a very American thing. And so it kind of found its way into a lot of our media and stuff like that. And the slasher movies, I mean, a lot of them are far more, of course, like supernatural, and then you have pervasive tropes like, you know, the final girl, and you know,
Yes.
everybody else is kind of neat until, you know, you can have the grand showdown at the end, and then, you know, the killer dies once, but he's not really dead, and then you have the scene where, you know, she has her back to him, and then he sits up, and then she's got to beat him down again, and then it's done, but only for now, because he's going to come back because he's supernatural.
Yeah.
But I love it so much. I know it's so easy and it's straightforward, but it has something in it that I love when it's done right. And that's because it's a formula that, like I said, when it's done right, can really bring out a sense of loneliness and dread, and against, even though the antagonists are often supernatural, against a very real fear that could be there. You know, who is there in the dark? You know, maybe you're in the middle of a forest somewhere, maybe it's in your neighborhood, or maybe you bought a shitty fucking box and you turned it the wrong way, and then Cenobites came out and they bondaged you to death. But so I mean, yeah, it very much reminds me of isekai in the way that you do get a number that are kind of cut and paste, but it's always interesting to see, like, who the monster is going to be. How are they going to make him, or her in some cases, or I don't know. I don't know how many more ways I can say that.
It's interesting.
I love something that's not super complex, but I kind of love it because of that.
I was thinking, like, there was that Clint Eastwood film, Play Misty for Me, which is a slasher, but it's not supernatural. So, and it's very much, you know, your standard kind of slasher film. You don't know who the killer is, and people are dying all around you. And I think that's part of the genre, because you can go the supernatural end, or you can go the more serial killer realistic end, can't you? Like, there's that Black Christmas, I think, Baines, that's the famous Canadian one, and then that's more realistic. And then you've got what's that? Scream? Was that the one with the? Or I Know What You Did Last Summer, or something like that. There was those ones.
Yeah. I liked Scream. I thought it did well with. I mean, it's a movie that totally took the cliches and the tropes, and didn't fashion something totally new. But I thought it was still a really fun movie, and there was lots of interesting bits. And then when you do find out who the killers are, I mean, they're two characters that you kind of love to watch on screen. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And like you say, that one deliberately played with the tropes. And I think that was interesting. In that one came at a time when the genre had almost died down.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was sort of doing a deliberate spoof on it, but it reignited the genre and it brought it to life again, even though it did it in spoofy. Well, it wasn't a spoof, but it parodied some of the. Well, it was self-aware.
It's kind of hard to put it into words, because when you say parody, it makes people think of like another scary movie or something, and it's not in that kind of pool. Which another scary movie was very much like, oh, we're gonna take the piss and throw in some. But it's hard to put into words, almost like a homage, in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's like an homage. It's like it's commenting on the genre, and at the same time, it's legitimately a genre movie. Like, it's a legitimate slasher movie. I remember, I'll never forget going to see it for the first time. I'd never even heard of it, and didn't know anything about it, and was just blown away by it, because I loved Friday the 13th, especially, and other slashers growing up.
Yeah.
And nothing had come out that I had seen recently at the time. And so like that it would comment on Halloween and Friday the 13th and everything was, oh man, it just got me right in the DNA. It was awesome. And as the years go by, I appreciate that movie. The first one definitely like is just very solid quality.
And when Bane says DNA, he means dick and ass. I'm sorry, I just had to say that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
The other tropes that Oz.
Don't say sorry when you don't mean it.
Yeah, but yeah, that brought him back to life. That was a smouldering little bit of kindling underneath the forest loam that brought the bushfire raging back to life again.
Beneath the pudding skin.
The pudding skin.
Yeah.
I know a lot of horror fans aren't. I know this isn't all about Scream, but like a lot of horror fans at the time, I remember reading that they didn't like it and they thought it brought too much self-awareness and too much like snark to horror. It kind of took away the juice from actual horror. So
well, it did a bit, but there wasn't any other things coming out. That was the problem. That the slasher horror had gotten so cliched that it had killed itself, that no one really wanted to go and see another, one of those things because they were tired of the cliches, and that made much needed comments on them, which, and reinvented things enough that it reinvigorated it. Sorry, Tom.
Yeah, well, I mean, it did in a sense a little bit. And I do remember, and I think people have kept those comments about it for a long time. I think for a long time, Scream has kind of had, people have been kind of divided on it. And for a while, I didn't really want to see it because, there were probably people that I knew who didn't like it, and it affected my opinion of it, And then when I finally was in the good headspace, and controlled my own opinion enough to judge it on its own basis, I finally saw it. And I really liked it. But I think the rejection of it initially was mostly because of, again, like the oversaturation, and then that it just seemed like a cash grab to some people. Like, oh, you all like slasher movies, right? Here's a slasher movie. Have it. Enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when you watch it, though, it doesn't really feel like that.
No, not at all.
Oh,
thank you. Yeah, not at all. It was much needed shot in the arm. That's what I think. To a genre that was flagging, and would that all genres and that become cliche can have their own Scream, so they can come back roaring back to life.
Before we move on, I'll just say too, now there is a little bit of a revival of that happening. Not necessarily slasher, like to the T, but there's a lot of horror movies coming out now that play with like the elements of things that remind us of slasher movies. Some of them do quite well. Like I liked Summer of '84 quite a lot, and that's very tropey in context of I don't even know if I'd call it a slasher film. I like horror films and stuff, like of the 80s, like horror films of the 80s. Like a lot of movies now are playing with old school synth soundtracks again, which I love. Like that kind of Carpenter-esque synth soundtrack. People are really, that's the way to my heart, is a good stinky synth soundtrack. And playing with a lot of like, a lot of the way that the characters might look kind of mirror like what you think like an 80s or 90s kid would have looked like. It's very much taking that aesthetic, which kind of started, I think it was kind of revived again with Stranger Things, and since then people have, but I see them doing different things than with Stranger Things. So some things that I see do feel like they're really coming from the heart of like this is somebody who loved slasher films and wants to take some of those flavors and like bring them over here.
Well, there is an interesting new genre of the retro horror, as you're talking about, Stranger Things, the 1984, the Insidious. Is that it with the? No, I don't know what it is. The Lorraine Warren stuff, Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Oh,
stuff.
The Conjuring.
Yeah, Conjuring. So all those things, they're retro horror, and then we've also got that that one we were talking about the other time where
Fear Street, right?
Yeah, Fear Street. That trilogy. So we've got another retro horror is the thing that has become, and is it becoming cliche? I don't know.
I think there are enough people doing different things with it to where, although I'm biased because I fucking love it anyway, but I don't know. As soon as I start watching a movie and they start drenching shit in neon, I'm in, I guess. Fear Street would have been a little better in some aspects. I liked Summer of '84 a little bit more, but I still have to watch the last Fear Street. I enjoyed it though. I did. I had a good time. But if you're between the two, watch Summer of '84.
It's less time to put in. It's not a trilogy. At least.
What was that?
I said it's less time to put in if you're not sure. Standalone movie. It's not a 3-parter.
The Summer of '84. I keep thinking of that freaking song by Bryan Adams, Summer of '64.
Yeah.
There's this movie. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Hills Run Red. It's a little bit obscure. It might be 10 years old or so. And don't hold me to this because it's been a while, and I was kind of like drifting in and out of sleep when I watched it, but it scared me a lot. When I tried to watch it again, I got bored. But
oh, really?
But it's interesting in the way that it subverts a lot of the tropes, the slasher tropes. It's still doing a slasher movie, but it turns a lot of things on their head. Like, you have the I don't know how much detail I should go into and spoil it, but cover your ears for 30 seconds or 15 seconds while I spoil. Like the silent masked killer. The killer in the mask ends up being very eloquent, very chatty when you find
I would like that now.
Yes, it's pretty gory and gross and dark, and it's got a very bleak ending and a little bit of a twist on the final girl thing, maybe. And it freaked me out when I was half asleep, especially. Like, really shook me. I don't know, like I said, I didn't even get to Act 3 when I tried to watch it again because I got bored. But
you were shook.
I was shook.
Shook, if you would.
Actually, just to move away from horror for a minute, we're talking about these cliche genres that we sort of love to love. One that I thought of was post-apocalyptic films. Or post-apocalyptic stories.
Yeah.
So this was
absolutely.
This really became like a massive thing. Exploded after I think Road Warrior, the first Mad Max. I don't know. I doubt that was the first one, but that really.
It was the most impactful one, though.
Yeah.
That was like the post-apocalypse heard around the world.
Yes, exactly. And it had a lot of imitators, and then people who went further and did newer, more interesting things. And then the genre kind of died out in the 90s, finally. And we haven't had much since, for whatever reason. So that's probably due.
There was the Book of Eli, which was, I liked it.
Which one?
The Book of Eli.
Oh, yeah. And The Road.
Which has a trope that I really like, which is why I watched it.
I mean, I think zombie films sort of took over the post-apocalyptic mantle.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Tance says, there are a few that just pop up, but the genre is the cliche is sort of fizzled away now. So yeah, you do get them occasionally. But
I wonder.
We had a Mad Max
Sorry.
one just a couple of years ago, which was good. Tance, Pitt, and I all saw that together.
Oh yeah, Fury Road. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm trying to think of. There's this one movie. I guess it's not technically post-apocalyptic. It's like during apocalypse, I guess. No, it's it was from the 50s or 60s, I think. I think it tied more into like the atomic fear, but the two are very related because a lot of times in post-apocalyptic movies, including Mad Max, I think it's there was an nuke that was dropped, and then the nuclear war happened. It's after the nuclear war, and that seems to be the one that you see the most. But I remember there was this one movie and it stayed with me for a while. I'd be curious to watch it again to see if it's as impactful. But it was called, I think it's called This Is Not a Test.
I think I remember that one.
Yeah. Oh, you saw it. Okay.
Must have. I mean, right now it's super vague because I probably saw it like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's about, so it starts, I won't go through the whole movie, but basically it starts off, if I remember correctly, that like, I don't know, there's like this couple pulled over along the road, and then they run into this police officer because there's this killer loose in the woods, or like this crook or something running around in the woods, and this officer is trying to find him and runs to this couple, and then so their truck pulls in alongside the road, and through like these little things that happen, like these people kind of gather, and eventually at some point over the radio they hear that I'd have to assume it was Russia the Soviet Union fired nukes, and the nuclear war was about to begin, and so they were telling people to get into safety, and they had a very limited amount of time to get there. So everybody there had to get into this truck, back of this truck, and by then I guess eventually the crook or the killer, or whoever he was, the cop was chasing, comes to get in as well. So they're all stuck in this little truck together, and they know that they can't get out for a long time because after the bomb drops, there's going to be radiation. And it was like the 50s or 60s, like, it's duck and cover shit. Like, the truck isn't going to save you from radiation fallout. We know that now, but it was very, from what I remember, very impactful because they had to plan on being in this truck for a very long time together. Yeah. And then I think it ends just as the bomb drops, and then it ends.
Oh dear. Yeah, some interesting movies that went on the theme of post-apocalypse or apocalypse, and then becoming post-apocalypse.
Post-apocalypse after a pandemic, like everyone is dead except a few. I also sort of like that sometimes. It's not one of my super favorite tropes, but I will watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and another, like a couple of tropes that I really like, which I was reminded listening to you guys, is the capable blind person, which I really, really love as a trope.
You've always loved that one.
Always.
So you're a Daredevil fan then, are you?
Ironically, not so much, because he has a cop out. He has this sonic hearing sort of thing that basically he sees.
Yeah.
He sees ghost images and stuff. So it's really, is he really blind in a sense? I don't know. I'm not that sold on him, but I really love everybody else. I remember there was this Rutger Hauer movie.
I was going to ask you if you've ever seen, I think it's called Blind Fury. Yeah.
Of course, I have seen it. And generally, I mean, not only like it doesn't have to be like a blind warrior, which still I really like that as a trope, but I also really like generally people that overcome a disability or any kind of challenge. But really, like the blindness is very iconic as a trope
Mm-hmm.
to overcome. So yeah, I actually really love that. That's one, and I will watch it in all iterations, even Daredevil. Although still, I have a problem with that.
Before you go on, let me just ask you. Oh my God, and I can't remember the name offhand because I've never seen the movie. But there's a classic, like horror, like home invasion movie with a blind
Oh
female
my God, I
protagonist.
want to see that. I haven't seen it, but I want to
What is
see
it
it.
Oh,
called?
wait. Oh, you said blind female.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking of Don't Breathe, but that was a blind
Yeah,
guy.
Oh, yeah.
guys, I don't know.
That was freaky.
There is a blind woman. One.
I thought maybe one of you guys would remember the title. I don't remember it offhand. I've been meaning to see it since I heard of it. Well, I guess I could just look it up.
Maybe it was another dream that you had, or like you fell asleep during.
Well, there was one about a deaf woman called Hush more recently. That was pretty cool. Home invasion, masked killer, and a deaf protagonist.
God, I
Oh
hate
yeah, I
those
wanted
kind
to
of
watch
movies.
that.
Not because it's
was
cliche,
good.
it's just I don't like it. Sorry, Tom?
Yeah, you're uncomfortable. That's understandable.
Yes, there you go.
But the one thing I really like in all of this, basically the hero journey, especially like you see them coming into their own, or like Zatoichi style, like they are already there, but you see them basically still being a blind person navigating a sighted man's world. So I really like that. And the other thing I really like, and I almost never get to really see it, is the bromance, like the real powerful friendship between two men or two women. I don't mind. I really love that, and it has always stuck with me since I was a little girl, and Damon and Phidias, which is not the Damon and Pythias. His name is not Pythias, guys. It's Phidias. That's the actual name. That's us. Anyway, and it's the story of these two friends, and one gets captured and is about to be executed, and the other one has to fetch something, and they really have only their friendship to rely on. It's very easy for both of them to betray each other. Like, I don't want to go into the archetypical story very much, but the whole idea is how much they actually believe in their friendship, and it's their friendship that carries them through. And I really love it. I love a bromance, so through and through.
A bromance and a somance.
I don't know how it is for ladies.
You're probably right. Just bros, like gender neutral.
I guess they like a real actual friendship.
Yeah.
I like, and I think it's rather rare still. I mean, I don't have a lot of movies or
Yeah.
I found that movie. It's Wait Until Dark. 1967.
Oh.
It's Audrey Hepburn.
Wow.
Oh! That breaks a bell now. But it's very, very interesting.
Classic then.
I kept seeing it on lists, and I meant to see it, and I forgot all about it until you brought up Blind Heroes.
Yeah, you need a bit of Audrey Hepburn in your veins. Go on and get it.
One of the most elegant ladies on screen.
She was. Breakfast at Tiffany's is still a gorgeous film. Charade, one of my favorites. Fantastic.
My Fair Lady.
I didn't think she was in that.
She was not.
Audrey Hepburn?
Mhm.
Probably. You're probably right, yeah, because the hat and everything. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Tance. See, that's a cliche that we love to hate. Tance is always right.
Audrey with the hat. Right. I think you have a. Oh, okay. The Bromance was your other one. I wanted to bring up the low social status, kind of somewhat dysfunctional, or at least like apparently dysfunctional loser protagonist. There's a certain degree of that.
yeah.
That's a trope I really love. Like, the drunk or semi-drunk barfly, or the broke.
The dude.
Like hobo with a shotgun.
Hobo with a shotgun, exactly. The dude would be the comedic version. I love the dude. Even Jack Burton, who's employed, but like sort of from Big Trouble in Little China, like fits into that mold.
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies. Danny, we were talking about Dr. Sleep last week, and Danny, spoiler alert, grown-up Danny Torrance is that kind of guy at the beginning of the movie, and I really like that. I like when a character starts there, and either as a fish out of water, maybe in a more comedic thing, or has some kind of like a redemption, or uses their gifts to, get where they need to be. But they're definitely lesser in kind of society's eyes, kind of thing. I really love that kind of character.
Nicolas Cage in Leaving Las Vegas. That's a dramatic.
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about that movie, but he might fit.
Maybe.
Another two real quick. First, the one that has the completely perpendicular social mobility. Starts off at the very bottom and fights their way to the top. Whatever
Scarface.
Yeah. I really love that. Second is, my God, I forgot the second.
Second. There is no second. It's just Scarface and Wolf of Wall Street and all that. Yeah, I like those.
I don't like. I'll still watch it because I'm very interested, but I actually like the protagonist. Oh, I remember the second one. I like also the character that is not a villain or not a hero or something. And I also really like the detective, in the sense, not exactly Sherlock Holmes, but characters that say, hold on, that doesn't look quite right. And they parse out, like there is this nefarious character that frames someone, and there's this other character that sees the ruse and foils the plan. I really love that.
Nice.
Whole thing.
Yeah, I actually see. Yeah, speaking of the Sherlock Holmes thing, the super genius has become a bit of a cliche trope there. Mm-hmm. So that's supernaturally good at working out.
I don't like that. I like to see the deduction happening in a way that looks human.
But it can work in some instances. There are versions of it. I mean, the TV detective, it's like the watered down version of that. So we're talking about Monk, Columbo.
Yeah, I'll watch that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. I like those, and that is a freaking cliche. It's been done over and over and over, and there can be still really good versions of that. So it can work.
But another sort of detective-ish character that never actually is named a detective until perhaps the very end, and that's just tongue-in-cheek. I remember there was this one a Korean series, very successful, now quite old, a historical one, about this lady called Dong-gi, and it combines two of my favorite tropes. She starts off as a slave, and she almost becomes the empress.
Wow.
And she is also a detective of sorts, because when she enters the palace as a servant, there are all sorts of, machinations going on, and framings and traps, and what have you, like assassinations under hundred poisonings, the lot. And she sort of solved them, like who did it. And it's perfect. I love it. I'm there for it. And she doesn't do it in like a supernatural way. She's just a very perceptive person. That's her whole thing. It's not that she's clairvoyant or anything like that. She's just extremely perceptive, and I love it.
If that's a good way of taking it on. Actually, speaking of Korean stuff, I don't know if this is Korean or Japanese. That this TV series that's taking the world by storm, the Squid Game.
That's huge, I guess, huh?
And this is weird. This is a cliche. I mean, we're counting down. Well, a lot of people don't realize it's a cliche. This is a massive cliche in anime and manga and, Japanese, Korean stuff. They've been doing it like for years and years, and it really has taken off in the past few years. There's just like so many animes with this frickin' theme of a game show that goes deadly and no one knows why, and it's kind of fascist people running it and ultra super rich, and they're using poor people as or just ordinary people as your the contestants. So that is a massive cliche.
Like Battle Royale.
But people really love it, so there you go.
Basically like an iteration of the Roman arena, the Gladiator.
Colosseum stuff.
Yeah. Or did you say that? I didn't catch it, sorry.
Battle Royale, Colosseum. Yeah. Anyway, we better wrap this up because Google is forcing us out, as it does.
Yes. So... we are on borrowed time. Another cliche.
I do like a little quick lightning round. I'll just take 15 seconds or 20.
Go for
the
it.
Masked character we've talked about before on other episodes. Love that trope. The hidden identity. Fathers and sons, like the challenging relationship there. Anything with that usually gets my interest and gets to me. Tense on Patreon mentioned mentors. I'm a big fan of certain kinds of mentors, especially the type of character that I just talked about a few minutes ago. When the mentor or the hero or both are kind of like that, like a grown hero who meets their previous mentor, whether they're working together or somewhat at odds. I love that.
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Yes, great.
Yeah,
Roadhouse too, with Sam Elliott as his old teacher there.
Highlander 1, Highlander 2.
Right.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, they brought him back for 2.
Yeah. Sean Connery doing his Last Crusade bit in Highlander.
Those are ones I wanted to give a shout to anyway.
Yeah. And that's Father Sons as well in Last Crusade, so you got the 2.
That's right, yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah, well, those are all pretty cool tropes that we can love to love and others will love to hate, which is interesting. That's another aspect that I like about it, that, even though we might like these things, others won't.
Yeah, that's very fine, guys. You're not supposed to like what we like.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we can convince you, but if we don't, well, whatever. Just tell us the ones you actually love to love.
Yes.
All right, then.
Any movie ending with a fast motion chase with yakety sax playing.
Oh, God.
Every story should end that way.
There's not enough of that.
No, not enough.
Benny Hill ending to everything.
Yes.
I would put that on this QUACKCAST, but we'll get flagged.
I love that. I love it.
Baines and I are wearing nun habits that get ripped off us, and we're got lingerie underneath, and Tance and Pit are chasing us lasciviously. Okay. Well, thank you for listening to QUACKCAST number 553.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now get the fuck out.
Yeah.